Well, good evening. I'm going to do something completely different, not like anything I've done before for a very, very long time. This is on my computer for ages. My son's half Irish, God rest his father, rest in peace, Jim Gorman, and I took a fancy to this many ages ago. I never did anything with it, but it is very light-hearted, very witty. It's called The Speckled People by Hugo Hamilton. It's a delight. He's a fantastic writer. I hope you're going to be as amused as I was. He speaks of his German-Irish childhood in the 50s. So he must be round about my age if he's still around, because I was a child in the 50s. Well, 46, 50, yeah, I was a child, wasn't I? Yeah, so that's why I like his humour. I'm only going to read one at a time, so I'll do the introduction and then I'll just do one, and I feel that you might enjoy a bit of light-hearted humour from a very good writer. I don't know if he's professional, I don't know anything about him, but I do know that this took my interest when I found it. The Speckled People by Hugo Hamilton. In one of the finest memoirs to have emerged from Ireland in many years, he is an acclaimed novelist. My apologies. Hugo Hamilton brings alive his German-Irish childhood in 1950s Dublin, between his father's Irish strict nationalism and the softly spoken stories of his mother's German past. This little boy tells the tale of a whole family's homesickness for a country and a language they can call their own. 1. When you're small, you know nothing. When I was small, I woke up in Germany. I heard the bells and rubbed my eyes and saw the wind pushing the curtains like a big belly. Then I got up and looked out of the window and saw Ireland. And after breakfast we all went out of the door to Ireland and walked down to Mass. And after Mass we walked down to the big green park in front of the sea, because I wanted to show my mother and father how I could stand on the ball for a count of 3, until the ball squirted away from under my feet. I chased after it, but I couldn't see nothing with the sun in my eyes, and I fell over a man lying on the grass with his mouth open. He sat up suddenly and said, "What, Jesus?" But he told me to look where I was going in future. So I got up quickly and ran back to my mother and father. I told them that the man said, "Jesus!" but they were both turned away, laughing at the scene. My father was laughing and blinking through his glasses, and my mother had her hand over her mouth, laughing and laughing at the sea until the tears came into her eyes, and I thought maybe she's not laughing at all, but crying. How do you know what that means when her shoulders are shaking and her eyes are red and she can't talk? How do you know if she's happy or sad? And how do you know if your father is happy or whether he's still angry at all? Things that are not finished yet in Ireland. You know the sky's blue and the sea is blue, and they meet somewhere far away at the horizon. You can see the white sailing boats stuck on the water and the people walking along with ice cream cones. You can hear a dog barking at the waves. You can see him standing in the water, barking and trying to bite the foam. You can see how long it takes for the sound of the barking to come across, as if it's coming from somewhere else and doesn't belong to the dog at all anymore, as if he's barking so much that he's hoarse and lost his voice. When you're small, you know nothing. You don't know where you are, or who you are, or what questions to ask. Then one day, my mother and father did a funny thing. First of all, my mother sent a letter home to Germany and asked one of her sisters to send over new trousers for my brother and me. She wanted us to wear something German, lederhosen. When the parcel arrived, we couldn't wait to put them on and run outside, all the way down the lane at the back of the houses. My mother couldn't believe her eyes. She stood back and clapped her hands together and said we were real boys now. No matter how much we climbed walls or trees, she said, these German leather trousers were indestructible, and so they were. Then my father warned us to wear something Irish too. He went straight out and bought hand-knit Aran sweaters, big white rope-patterned woolen sweaters from the west of Ireland that were also indestructible. So my brother and I ran out wearing lederhosen and Aran sweaters, smelling of rough wool and new leather, Irish on the top and German below. We were indestructible. We could slide down granite rocks. We could fall on nails and sit on glass. Nothing could sting us now, and we ran down the lane faster than ever, before brushing past nettles as high as our shoulders. When you're small, you're like a piece of white paper with nothing written on it. My father writes down his name in Irish, and my mother writes down her name in German, and there is a blank space left over for all the people outside who speak English. We're special because we speak Irish and German, and we like the smell of these new clothes. My mother says it's like being at home again, and my father says, your language is your home, and your country is your language, and your language is your flag. But don't you want to be special? Out there in Ireland, you want to be the same as everyone else, not an Irish speaker, not a German or Kraut or Nazi. On the way down to the shops, they call us the Nazi brothers. They say we're guilty, and I go home and tell my mother I did nothing. But she shakes her head and says, I cannot say that. I cannot deny anything, and I cannot fight back, and I cannot say I am innocent. She says it is not important to win. Instead, she teaches us to surrender, to walk straight by and ignore them. We are lucky to be alive, she says. We are living in the luckiest place in the world, with no war and nothing to be afraid of, with the sea close by and the smell of the salt in the air. There are lots of blue benches where you can sit looking out at the waves, and lots of places to go swimming, lots of rocks to climb on, and pools to go fishing for crabs, shops that sell fishing lines and hooks and buckets and plastic sunglasses. When it's hot, you can get an ice pop, and you can see newspapers spread out in the windows to stop the chocolate melting in the sun. Sometimes it's so hot that the sun stings you under your jumper like a needle in the back. It makes tar bubble on the road that you can burst with a stick from the ice pop. We're living in a free country, she says, where the wind is always blowing, and you can breathe in deeply, right down to the bottom of your lungs. It's like being on holiday all your life, because you hear seagulls in the morning, and you see sailing boats outside houses, and people even have palm trees growing, she says, because it looks like a paradise, and the sea is never far away, like a glass of blue-green water at the bottom of every street. But that changes nothing. Sieg Heil, they shout. Achtung! Schnell, schnell! Donner and Blitzen! I know they're going to put us on trial. They have written things on the walls at the side of the shop. and in the laneways. They're at the side of the shop and in the laneways. They are going to get us one of these days and ask questions that we won't be able to answer. I see them looking at us, waiting for the day when we are alone and there's nobody around. I know they're going to execute me because they call my older brother Hitler, and I get the name of an SS man who was found in Argentina and brought back to be put on trial for all the people he killed. I am Eichmann, I said to my mother one day. But that's impossible, she said. She kneeled down to look in my eyes. She took my hands and weighed them to see how heavy they were. Then she waited for a while, searching for what she wanted to say next. You know, the dog that barks at the waves, she said. You know, the dog belongs to nobody and barks at the waves all day until he is hoarse and he has no voice anymore. He doesn't know any better. I am Eichmann, I said. I am Adolf Eichmann, and I'm going to get an ice pop. Then I'm going down to the sea to look at the waves. Wait, she said. Wait for your brother. She stands at the door with her hand over her mouth. She thinks we're going out to Ireland and never coming back home again. She is afraid we might get lost in a foreign country where they don't have our language and nobody will understand us. She is crying because I'm Eichmann and there is nothing she can do to stop us going out and being Nazis. She tells us to be careful and watches us going across the street until we go around the corner and she can't see us anymore. So then we try to be Irish. In the shop we ask for the ice pop in English and let on that we don't know any German. We are afraid to be German, so we run down to the seafront as Irish as possible to make sure nobody can see us. We stand at the railings and look at the waves crashing against the rocks and the white spray going up into the air. We can taste the salt on our lips and see the foam running through the cracks like milk. We're Irish and say Jesus every time the wave curls in and hits the rocks with a big thump. Jesus, what Jesus? I said. Jesus, what the Jesus of a big huge belly, Franz said, and then we laughed and ran along the shore, waving our fists. Big bully waves, I shouted, because they could never catch us, and they knew it. I picked up a stone and hit one of the waves right in the underbelly, right there as he stood up and rushed in towards us with his big green saucer belly and his fringe of white hair falling down over his eyes. Get down, you big bully belly! We laughed as the stone caught the wave with a chunk, and there was nothing he could do but surrender and lie down across the sand with his arms out. Some of them tried to escape. We were too fast for them. We picked up more and more stones and hit them one by one because we were Irish and nobody could see us. The dog was there barking and barking and barking and barking, and we were holding back the waves because we didn't know any better. I'm going to stop there. That's the end of part 1. God bless and good night. We'll have 2 another time.